Welcome to Ascend with Amelia, the podcast designed to equip the next generation with the skills, insights, and knowledge needed to turn their career dreams into reality. My name is Amelia, and I have been in corporate America for 20 years. I have worked within 4 different career types across 2 different industries, and I have been where you have been. I have been a young adult who had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up and had a hard time navigating where I uniquely would fit into all of the potential opportunities out there. If that sounds familiar, this podcast is for you. But I won't be doing this alone. I'm teaming up with experienced professionals who are just as passionate about guiding and mentoring future leaders. Today, we're going to dive into their journeys, how they got to where they are today, a day in the life of different careers and industries, and so much more. So buckle up, take notes, and get ready to ascend toward your career goals. Let's get started. We're so glad to have Stevina Johnson here with us today. Stevina is a certified public accountant with nearly 20 years of tax consulting and compliance experience for both public and private companies. She has served clients and corporations in various industries, including energy, professional services, healthcare, not-for-profit, manufacturing and distribution, real estate, logistics, and technology. She earned her Bachelor's of Business Administration and Accounting and her Master's of Public Accountancy degrees from Stephen F. Austin State University. She currently serves as a board member and corporate relations director of the Dallas-Fort Worth Alliance of Black Accountants. She is a wife and mother of 2 daughters. She enjoys volunteering in various roles at church, her daughter's school, and in the community. In her spare time, she loves to play volleyball, plan parties for her loved ones, and travel. Stevina, we're excited to have you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for coming. So I'm going to start asking you, if you had to describe your job in the simplest way possible, but still make it sound cool, how would you do it?
I would just say that I help people. I help people follow the rules as it relates to taxes.
Okay, thank you. Is there an exciting part of your job for somebody like me who doesn't really like numbers that much? Is there an exciting part of your job to you?
Yeah, the exciting part of my job is actually helping people. Using what I've learned over almost 20 years, the tax laws and, different things like that, to be able to help someone understand what they need to do to make their business successful or whatever their needs are. That's the exciting part of my job.
I love that. We need people like you.
Thank you so much.
Because not that many people have that knowledge. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
What industry would you say you belong to, and who are the major competitors in this space?
So in my current role, I'm in the healthcare industry. The company that I work for is a leader in the healthcare industry. Okay. There's a few competitors, I would say, but we're number one. We're the best in my eyes.
Okay.
So, and a part of my role there is just, making sure that the tax jurisdictions, because we're everywhere, that they understand that,
So tax jurisdiction meaning Texas, different from New Jersey, right. All those different things. Okay.
Different states and even, the federal government as well. So it's federal, state, and local taxes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What is the biggest misconception about your role?
The biggest misconception is that I do taxes.
Okay.
I don't know what that means when people say that, but
now, aren't you a CPA?
I am
thought
a
CPAs
CPA.
did. I also thought that.
Yes.
That they did taxes.
I do taxes. I've done taxes before, mm-hmm. but it's what I do is prepare and review tax returns. That's what I've done for nearly 20 years. Mm-hmm. Now I actually don't do taxes at all. I'm more of a behind the scenes kind of person. So it's more consulting than compliance at this point. But yeah, I think that most people think that because I'm a tax accountant, which would be the more appropriate term, that somehow I have like special knowledge of like extra deductions that they can take,
Exactly,
and things like that. And I'm just like, no, I can follow the law. I can do that because I want to keep my license. But yeah, I'll use, whatever knowledge I have, and I can always research because the tax code is so huge. Nobody can hold all of that in their head. But the more I get to know a person, a client, their business model, what they have, the plans that they're making, the structure, I can advise them based on, what I know the code to say. But yeah, due taxes is just such a broad term.
that's what I think for all CPAs. Clearly, I am wrong, and there's more out there for CPAs than just doing taxes. Thank you for that.
And not to mention, CPAs, we do a lot of different things. So I'm a tax specialist, but some people don't do taxes at all that are CPAs. Maybe they're more in the auditing space or in financial planning, or maybe they're a certified financial planner, but they started on the CPA route or whatever. There's just a lot of different things that you can do in this industry, in this field.
Where do you see the industry headed in the next 5 years with regards to you being a CPA?
Honestly, we've had conversations just in the industry amongst my peers about really a lack of CPAs. It's harder and harder to recruit people for this field, for this industry, just because they don't necessarily understand what it is. When I got into this field, I didn't understand what it is either. What it was, I didn't know any CPAs. None in my family that I knew of. I found out later that I had a cousin who was one, but he's only a few years older than me. But yeah, it's just not really understanding it. And so part of what I do for my nonprofit that I work with is helping people to realize that this is a viable career path. We always need accountants, so there's always a need for it. It could be very lucrative.
I was just going
a
to
lucrative
say,
career.
yes.
Yeah, but people have to know about it first. There's a lot of first generation accountants, as you would say, and so that's part of what I do with the nonprofit work that I do.
Fantastic! I love that you spend time outside of your job, kind of still you're trying to give back to the next generation of potential accountants. So
Absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Speaking of your day, is the day of the role of someone, of what you're doing today, is it a typical 9 to 5, or do you have more control over your schedule?
I would say at this point in my career, I have more control over my schedule. I do work a 9 to 5. I work, certain hours, but there's a lot of things that come up in my day, honestly. As a wife and a mom of 2 kids, as you can imagine, any day could be a call from the school that, a kid is sick or something like that. So I may have to, pause in the middle of my day to go address that and then pick up later on, in the evening. But that's at this point in my career. It took a long time to get that flexibility, which I'm grateful for. But earlier on in my career, and I speak candidly about this because I want to be upfront with the next generation. I had to put in a lot of long hours, like really long hours. It was not 9 to 5. It was more like 9 to 12 a.m. So, busy season is a thing for tax accountants where the closer to the deadline we are, we're just trying to get all these tax returns out to the clients. So, I had a few rough years in that regard, but it was all a learning experience. Every hour that I put in, I got something out of it on the back end.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. I think you bring up a really good point. There's a difference between being hourly versus being salaried.
Yeah.
Hourly, of course, you get paid for every hour that you work, and you typically don't get paid as much overall. But if you're salaried, you get a certain dollar value, period, for the work to get done.
Right.
So it's not really a clock in and clock out kind of a situation. It's
Absolutely.
a making sure that your work is done. And you talk about CPAs having a 9 to 12 a.m. kind of a role, but I don't want that to defer anyone from getting into the field because believe you me, no matter what field that you try, there's going to be some long hours sometimes if you are salaried. We all agree that work-life balance is ridiculously important, but there are definitely ebbs and flows.
Yes.
And I see it, but y'all's ebbs and flows are just more structured.
Right. Yeah. Ours are literally by the calendar. I used to joke and say, if it's the 15th of a month, there's some tax filing due. So, it's just, for me as a tax professional, it was just 2 times a year, leading up to those 15th deadlines, 4/15 and 10/15, where it was just super busy. But after that, there were times when work was, super slow. And so, it's not as strict. You can take that time off. You have PTO and things like that to be able to recharge and get ready for the next season. So, but yeah, it's a part of the grind. And again, like I said, this was earlier on in my career when I didn't know anything. I was fresh out of college and, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, as they say. But I needed those experiences, honestly, to, shape my work ethic as it relates to my career. I had a good work ethic coming in, but as it relates to my career, just understanding the importance of figuring out problems for yourself, communicating with your team, those types of skills will carry me really far.
So it's funny because, you say that in the beginning of your career, you had to put in a lot of long hours. I think that's really important for the next generation to understand is, you did spend 4, maybe 5 years in college learning this field or this industry, but to understand and realize there's still going to be so much you don't know and that you have to put in the time. You have to be okay with asking questions, with documenting what you know, and then kind of going back and organizing yourself and kind of building upon everything that people tell you every day. That's a huge kind of pointer I think I would give to the next generation. You're going to have to put in the hours. If you want to be good at anything, you're going to have to put in the hours.
Absolutely.
What's the first thing you do when you start your workday?
Well, the first thing I do is get children up.
Okay.
I get my kids up for school.
That's the start of your second job.
You're right, yeah.
Or your first, I should say.
Yeah, I take them to school, and then when I get back, for me, I'm again at a point in my career where I'm blessed to be able to work from home. So my first part of my day is just eating a good breakfast. I like to, eat something good. I used to drink coffee. I just recently quit it, but yeah, that's how I just get something to eat to start my day, and then I start checking emails. Sometimes there's emails that came in after I logged off for the night, the day before, and so I start addressing those. Typically, I have a to-do list that I make the day before, and so I know the things that are coming up, the things that are due, deliverable deadlines, internal and external. So with my team or with an outside party. And I just sort of go through that list. I typically have a lot of meetings with my team or calls that I have to make to different tax jurisdictions. So I kind of line those up and call them. It's interesting when you work for like a global company. The time zone thing kind of,
oh gosh,
you really have to schedule those meetings like according to time zones.
Yes.
So all of my California calls, they're not going to get a call before 10 a.m. because it's 8 a.m. their time. So yeah, just balancing those calls and meetings and just checking off my little to-do lists every day.
Yes. Do you use a physical to-do list or an electronic to-do list?
Both. So
Okay.
I do have a physical to-do list and it's on my desk, but sometimes I forget it's there. It's just the truth. So so sometimes certain tasks, I'll actually put it on my calendar so that I don't forget. I'm a very calendar-based person in my personal and professional life because it's the only way I can keep my life organized. Every meeting, every, event, whatever I need to do, unless it's like a repetitive thing like picking up the kids from school and stuff like that.
You'll remember that.
I will remember that, yes. Although there was a time.
Oh gosh. We won't talk about that.
We won't talk about that. Where I had to put a little thing because when you're in thought, deep in thought, it's hard to come up from that concentration. So, but yeah, I'll put it on my calendar just so that I can prioritize it and make sure it gets done.
So with that being said, and let's see if you have anything else to say about this. Are there any cool routines or productivity hacks you swear by? I know you mentioned the putting task on your calendar, which I also do sometimes, especially if it's a big deliverable for my leader. I make sure I put it on the calendar. It's visible. No matter what, I'll make sure I get that done.
Yeah.
But are there any other productivity hacks?
I would say one thing that I started doing maybe 2 or 3 years ago, sometimes my job, because I'm reading tax law or something like that, I get a little tired. Like, you know, my eyes get tired of looking at the screen or whatever. And so I have a standing desk. So I'll just raise that up. And so if I'm standing, it helps me to focus a little bit better than when I'm sitting, because I may, you know, get sleepy. So
I have seen that. And, you know, I've even seen people have not only a standing desk, but have like a miniature treadmill underneath.
I have one of those too.
to stay in shape and to stay focused
Absolutely.
while they're at work. That's a great idea.
Yep.
What is one entry-level job that actually set you up for success, and how did it help?
So funny enough, my path to my career was a little different than most people in this career. I ran track in college. So the time when people were doing like spring internships or, you know, going to the different firms, I couldn't do it. I had to run. That's my season. So in the summertime, I actually did a small internship it was bookkeeping for a production company. Film production company. And so it was a very random job to do, but it actually aligned with what I was going to do in my career later on. And so this was an opportunity that, you know, it was just given to me by a family friend. They were like, hey, you're at home for the summer, not doing anything. Do you want to help me out doing this? I said, okay. And so, I got to be a bookkeeper for a film production company. And so in my spare time, because bookkeeping didn't take that much of my time, I also did like other like production type of things. And so it just kept it really interesting. I got to meet a lot of really cool people and learn about the film industry in a way that I wouldn't have normally, because that wasn't my major or anything like that. So but what it did is open my mind to the possibilities that were in a field of accounting. As you know, every movie set that you have, every TV show, they have an accountant on their set that keeps track of the budget and, you know, the salaries of the actors and things like that. And so that's a really exciting way of doing accounting, you know, in that realm. So yeah, that was my entry to my career, was a random film production company.
And you say random, but you know, I feel like a lot of people get their first opportunity from a family friend or from a family member.
Yeah.
What aspect of you kind of interacting with that family member do you think led you to getting that job? Had you told them that you wanted to be an accountant? Like, how did that conversation go, and how did they think of you for the opportunity?
Well, honestly, so this particular family friend also went to my church. And so they literally seen me grow up from like 10 years old to college. And so they just saw the type of person I was, and they saw something in me that said, this person can be trusted with my business, which is a huge responsibility. Huge responsibility. And, you know, it's like I was interviewing for a job that I never knew I was going to have. So just me being me was enough for them to say, you know, this person, we know she's going to college. We know she's going to, because I didn't even know I was an accounting major when I first got to college. But, you know, this person can be trusted. And this person is responsible. They got a good head on their shoulders.
They can learn quickly.
You know, they got themselves together, you know, and they're good family, you know, good family, come from a good family. And so they just gave me the opportunity. I wasn't seeking it out. And so I'm really grateful for that opportunity. It really set me up, and it gave me the experience that I didn't have the opportunity to get through those traditional internships.
I think it is a fantastic point, just to call out for a second, that you are always interviewing for something. Whether it's for somebody's trust that they're going to need you for, you know, years down the line, an opportunity is going to come up and they're going to remember just knowing you over the last 5 years and knowing that you're a good person, knowing you have integrity, knowing you're a hard worker. All of those things are super critical, because I think people don't turn it on unless they feel like they're in a situation where they have to, versus always being a person of integrity, always being a hard worker, always being kind. Because you never know who's watching.
Exactly.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you talked about this a little bit. Did you take more of a traditional route, climbing within one company, or did you build expertise across different roles and industries? And you've already talked about this a little bit, but expand.
Yeah. So I started out the traditional route, which for an accounting person is to work for an accounting firm, public accounting firm. And so I started out in that route. My life got kind of crazy with just, family things, loved ones passing away, like those type of personal things where I had to really take a step back and prioritize what was important to me. And so for me at that time, I said, I appreciated all the learning opportunities that I had, but I really needed to take a step back and assess my time that I was spending at work versus with the things that I enjoy doing and the people I enjoy being around. And so I changed firms and went to a different firm. And so I was at that firm for almost 8 years. And then again, life keeps happening. And so in that time, in those 8 years, I got married and I had 2 kids. And so I had to.
That was when your second job started.
That was my second job.
Your second and third job.
Right. So yeah, I had to assess again, reprioritize. And, each time the people I was working with, I really enjoyed the people that I worked with. It's just, I had to put my family's needs first. And so I made a decision that, really changed my life. And that was to leave public accounting, which, was really hard to do. That's all I've known for 12 years at that time. But I had to, put family first and get a job that was more flexible with my time. It was a flexible role, but the time that I had to spend there was just more than my family could really take. They needed me, which is, I could do a whole lecture on the needs of of a working woman, a working mother. But yeah, I had to really prioritize my family, and I'm really glad that I did. I took a role that eventually allowed me to work from home. And so that freed up so much of my time, not having to commute.
Just the travel,
Yeah, so that I could take my kids to school and drop them off for the first time in their young lives. So they got really used to daddy doing it, but mommy's been doing it for 5 years now.
Good stuff.
But yeah, that was really the change in my path there. And I would say it's still fairly traditional. I'd known others who had taken the leap from public to industry, is what we call it in accounting. And yeah, it's usually a family-based decision, and so it's nothing personal, but family first.
Absolutely, I love that. So, going back a little bit, we've already talked about your entry-level job, the bookkeeping job that a family member gave you, and how that set you up for success. Can you think of one skill from that job that you still use today?
Absolutely. Networking. So prior to that job, I really didn't talk to people outside of school and church.
I think that's how a lot of people are.
Yeah. Like I was very my bubble, my circle type of thing. But when I'm working for an entrepreneur, because they were, self-employed, it was a production company. We were going on different shoots for marketing things that they were doing. And so I had to, interact with all of these people in this industry I knew nothing about, much older than me, most of these people, and just, really sort of be a fly on the wall. And most times I just didn't say anything, but I was observant. And so when I got into situations where I was in the room and I was a fly on the wall, and then it transitioned to being in the room with a seat at the table, I knew what to do and what to say. I knew, different people in leadership in different places just by really observing and, taking mental notes and some physical notes when necessary, but about just how to be when you're in the room. So that was the biggest thing for me that I took away from that experience, was just, really how to handle yourself in a room full of people that you don't know.
Absolutely. And I want to pull the thread a little bit more on you kind of just being a fly on the wall. Being a fly on the wall is one of the most important, I think, roles that you can take. And no matter what industry you're in, no matter what career field, anytime you're coming into something that you don't know about, just sitting back and taking the opportunity to soak in all the information and, so that you will be prepared for when people start bringing you into the conversation. Don't, waste that time just kind of sitting back and thinking, well, they're not talking to me.
Yeah.
You have to be thinking about, okay, well, how would I have answered that question? Well, I have to remember to ask him about that later to learn a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
So being a fly on the wall is a fantastic, I think, thing that all new college graduates or people who just got a certificate or what have you, whenever they're starting in a new job or career, fly on the wall is critical. To be focused, observant, and figuring out how you are then going to engage in that conversation later.
Right. And it's absolutely like there's levels to it, as they say. So you go from being a fly on the wall, just kind of observing and seeing how people interact.
And they expect you to. They expect you to be a fly on the wall.
Absolutely.
In the beginning.
Absolutely. And then it goes to, okay, well, the next time I'm here, I want to be intentional about my time here. I want to meet certain people, or, really preparing to be in that room. And so you start out one way, but the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with it, the more you get comfortable speaking extemporaneously about random things, the more you learn the art of small talk and things like that. So it's worth it to like just keep putting yourself out there, keep making yourself uncomfortable as you will, because I used to be a person where if you don't speak to me first, I'm not gonna speak.
And Stevina, you don't know, I would say probably more people are like that than not.
Yeah.
So that's not something to be embarrassed of or anything like that. If you're a young adult and you're just like, oh, I just want to kind of stay to myself, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And you have to think through, how are you going to move to the next level?
Right.
If you're not talking to anybody.
Exactly.
How is anybody going to know what you're doing if you're not talking to them? How's anybody going to know who you are if you're not talking to them? So it's kind of a balancing act there.
Absolutely.
Was there, well, you've already kind of answered this. Was there ever a moment when you had to completely pivot?
Yeah, I guess coming out of public was a big pivot for me. I every time that I changed roles, I was nervous about people's perception when I got to where I was going. Because wherever you are, when you're in your career, you're in your job, for a while, people get to know you. They get to know your work ethic. They get to know your value system. They know the type of employee you are. And so when you go to another place, you kind of have to start over. They don't really know anything about you. They know what your resume says. They know what they learned from you in the interview, but they don't really know you. They don't know the type of person you are. And so that's always a hard transition for me. Not because I'm seeking their approval necessarily, but I just feeling the need to prove myself as an employee, as
a go-getter.
Right. Like it takes a while for people to realize, and it sounds weird, like that I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because they don't know me. They don't know me. They're like, oh, we just hired this person. We assume that they know.
I mean, they should know.
They should. I got the job, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it takes a while, and it takes a few interactions for them to be like, oh, she's really good. Oh, okay, she knows what she's doing. Yeah. And what I don't know, I'm happy to admit I don't know, but I can look that up. So
that's a whole I just want to talk about that for a second. Yes. There's so many times where I just don't know the answer. And I think people feel like you have to know every answer, especially when you're new to a company or a job. It's okay for you to say you don't know, and you'll get back to them with an answer. It's okay. And I think that's something not only young adults need to hear, but also adults.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you sharing that, because that's a huge point. It's okay not to know things and to admit that and go off and get the answer.
Yep.
Do you have any side hustles or projects outside of your main job?
I do, but I'm doing them less and less now.
More of a focus on your family.
Right. So being an accountant, it's a very technical job. I spend a lot of time looking at numbers and reading laws, tax laws. And so every now and then I have two sides of me. I have the academic accounting type person, and then I have a creative side. And so every now and then that creative side is just like screaming. It's like, I need an outlet. And so some years ago, I just started, and I think maybe having kids also kind of brought this out of me. I started leaning into just like party planning type things, specifically balloons. like just doing balloon garlands and, just things to decorate. It was just fun. I like colorful things, things like that. So that's kind of my side hustle, if you will. Although it's not really a paid thing. It's just something I do for fun, for family and friends. But yeah, it allows me to get that creative side of me out, and so that I can get back to my technical side.
Now that is so interesting. We talk about different sides of the brain, and one's analytical and one's creative. Yep. Normally people only have one of those that's like, predominant in their life. But to think someone can love numbers and also love balloons is very, very different. But it goes to show that, a job won't necessarily fulfill you in every way that you need to be fulfilled. Right. And that's okay. You can find things outside of that, whether paid or not paid, to do that can help fulfill you.
Absolutely. Yep.
What advice would you give someone looking for the right professional community?
One, kudos for looking for a professional community, because I didn't do that starting out. I just thought I need to put my head down and do my work. It never occurred to me that I needed a professional community. But yeah, kudos to them for looking. I would say, just do a little research. There are so many different associations and companies and nonprofits and organizations, networking. Like, there's so many things out there, and they're very industry specific. And so whatever career you're in, there's probably an organization that is for you. And so that's part of what I do now with my not-for-profit work, is connecting other accountants, who, don't have a network. That we didn't come with a built-in network. We don't have family members who are accountants. We may have a few people from college, in our classes that we know, but outside of that, we don't really know anybody. And so much of this career in accounting specifically, but even other careers, as you mentioned, it's about the networking. It's not necessarily what you know. You do need to know things, but
you need to know all.
You need to know things.
Yes. That is. We need to make sure that that's very clear.
It's not. Let me say, it's not just what you know.
Right.
It is also who you know.
Right.
And so getting to know people, especially in your industry, I enjoy having conversations with other accountants that I've never met before. And we have the exact same story. It's so crazy. Like, you're like, oh, you experienced that too? I experienced that as well.
It makes you feel good.
It makes you feel seen.
Someone else has gone through either good or bad things.
Yeah. You're like, I'm not alone. Okay. And then meeting people who've been in this industry or whatever career for decades more than you're like, okay, there's a viable path to success here. This person was able to make it. This person was able to navigate the different waters. They were able to navigate corporate America and whatever that entails, for your experience. And so it gives you hope. And it gives you someone to look to and to ask questions to. So my intro to, professional organizations, I was actually grabbed by the hand. There was a partner at one of the firms, the first firm that I worked at. And she just saw me and she was like, hey, come to this meeting with me. And I was like, okay. So what am I going to tell a partner? No. And so I went and I met all of these people, honestly, who looked like me and did the same things that I did or even better. And I was like, okay, I can see how it works now. I can understand it. They gave me, tips and tricks that they learned along the way, things to help them avoid certain pitfalls. And it was very helpful. I really took those to heart. And so part of what I do now is really paying that forward. I do the same thing for the generation behind me. I share my experience with them, good and bad. And I just, let them know, like, here's how you can get to where you want to go. One, identify where you want to go. And then this group of people, this community will help you get there. Absolutely. We'll use all of our resources, all of our networks, all of our, whatever we have to give, we'll give that back to you.
Absolutely. That I feel like that's huge, not starting from a blank slate. Finding someone who's been through what you've been through. As a kid, I was one, if I saw somebody's hand get burned on a stove, I'd be like, I wonder how that would feel for me. like I wasn't somebody who would look and see, well, that didn't work for that person. Let me see, let me steer away from that.
Yeah.
And I think that's how a lot of people in general, adults and young adults, are. They want to see for themselves versus listening to people that have come before them, listening to their pitfalls, listening to their best practices and applying that to them.
Yeah.
If they do that, which I wish I was like that as a kid. I'm getting better now. But, if they did that, they wouldn't be starting from square one.
Right.
So I appreciate you bringing up that point. That's huge to have a mentor.
Absolutely.
Any underrated networking tips for young professionals?
Well, I'll say this, going back to the thought of being intentional. So we didn't have this luxury. Well, I say we, I don't want to date you, but I didn't have this luxury when I was starting out of having LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
Where you can actually see and find people after you meet them. And so one tip that I would say, and I've noticed a lot of young people doing it, as you meet people, connect with them on LinkedIn immediately so that you don't forget their names, and then send them a message so they don't forget you. Even if it's hi, I'd like to connect with you. It was really great meeting you at such and such networking event. I'd love to hear more about your career, whenever you have time or something like that. And just sending that message on LinkedIn, even if we don't connect in the near future, the next time I see you or hear from you, I will have that message to give me recall, like, oh yeah, I met this person at, such and such event. But it's really a way to get connected with mentors, formally and informally, in a way that didn't exist, 20 years ago. So that's a pro tip. I would say connecting with them, and then, taking that time to hear from them as you go throughout your career. Because even though, you're a stranger necessarily to me, I'm the type of person where if I see someone who is motivated, I see someone who's working hard,
can follow up.
If I see that person, making that effort and doing the right things, I would be glad to give them a hand. I would be glad to give them a recommendation for something. I would be glad to refer them for a job, again, just based on who they are. I know nothing about their technical skills. I don't even know what their grades are. But because I see them as a person who's trying and working really hard, who every time I see them, they're respectful. Every time I see them, they're on point, or, or if I give them a tip about something, the next time I see them, they implement that. I'll exhaust all my resources to help a person like that.
I love that. And I think a lot of people that are more seasoned in their careers feel the same way. That if somebody was to reach out to them and ask them for help, advice, that more than willing to give it. And a lot of times they're proud to give that information.
Absolutely.
What soft skills have made the biggest impact on your success?
So it's a soft skill, but honestly, it's actually it's a rare skill now these days. So the ability to communicate in writing, it's a soft skill. I think that it falls in that category, but it goes a long way because it says a lot about you. I usually triple check all my emails. I'm very thorough. Like if I'm advising and I'm, citing some research or something, I'm going to triple check my sources. I'm going to have it at the ready, even if I don't attach it to the email. And so, but just, what'd you say? Crossing your T's and dotting your I's.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always mess up.
I know. I was like,
that's it. Yes.
So, just making sure that as you communicate things, it's communicated in a way where, people can rely on what you're giving them. And then also just, grammar. The red squiggly line on
it means something.
It means something.
Yes.
So, and even if you don't have a red squiggly line, just go back and read through it again. Just so that, so that whatever you're trying to convey, the message that you're trying to convey doesn't get lost because somebody sees that. Because sometimes seeing that really turns somebody off from whatever you're saying. So, just having a good email, a good solid email, a good, memo or whatever, your industry is, that is going to go in a file somewhere, or that's going to get passed up to a VP or the CEO or something. You want, if your name is attached to it, you want it to be in tip-top shape.
Absolutely. No, I love that. This has been fantastic. You've given us a lot of really good information about your field and even outside of that. Do you have anything else to share for the next generation?
For the next generation, I would just say, just remember the things that we talked about today, obviously. And, I guess don't take anything for granted. Every opportunity that you get, every random job that you get, like I got, every time somebody takes their time to help you, to give you advice, to show you the ropes, to introduce you to somebody, don't take it for granted. Those are not things, everybody doesn't get those opportunities. Those are not things that anybody has to do for you. Nobody has to go out of their way to do anything for you. So if someone is taking the time to do that for you, if they're taking the time to give you a correction or a critique, understand that it's coming from a place of love and concern and wanting you to be the best version of yourself so that you can be successful. But yeah, just don't take it for granted. Just embrace those opportunities and those people who are willing to help you.
Absolutely. It's funny because I feel like a lot of adults, including me sometimes, it's hard to receive criticism, but you have to step back and think to yourself, if they're taking the time to give you correction and to give you feedback, they really do want you to get better. It's when they stop giving you feedback that something is wrong.
Yeah.
So thank you, Stevina. We really appreciated having you here.
Thank you for having me. This was a great conversation.
Absolutely. So that is a wrap for today's episode. A huge thank you again to Stevina for joining me and sharing such valuable insights. I hope you picked up a few gems to add to your proverbial toolbox as you continue ascending towards your goals. As always, onward and upward. See you next time.